Welcome to Fine Wineries, where great wines are discovered. Here are Ron and Marilyn Denner of Denner Vineyards.
Hello, we're the Denners. I'm Ron.
I'm Marilyn.
And how did we get to Paso Robles? Well, I was raised in Southern California and Marilyn was raised in Canada. And we met on a blind date in Hollywood many years ago, believe it or not. But lived in Colorado for 20 some odd years, fell in love with wine, and wanted to start our own vineyard and winery. So that was about a 2-year project of looking at all the areas where wines come from and where there's vineyards. And we were very, very lucky to find this spot. And we'd come out to California, I think in a period of 1 year, 18 times, looking for vineyard land. And on one of our last trips, we had been out to Paso Robles 3 times. And we were getting ready to fly out the following morning when the real estate person phoned us and said, look, I know of this great piece of land. The family might be willing to sell it. So the land had been in the Wiebe family for over 100 years, and they sold us 150 acres of the 300-acre parcel they owned. And that's when the adventure really started. We were then able to develop the vineyard with predominantly Rhones, and probably the most interesting of the wines would be the one that's called the Ditch Digger. It's a marvelous blend of a Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, and Coonawarre now, and it's really got an interesting beginning. If you've ever seen a machine called a ditch witch, it's a trencher, and they make small ones up to big ones, and that's been my career for 30 some odd years. Our son's the winemaker, and we were trying to think of a fancy name. I wanted to call it Titan or Colossus, and Brian, as sometimes sons do, took his father to task and said, Dad, what you've really been for the better part of your life is a ditch digger. So that's how the name really got started.
We're here in Denner Vineyards now, and we have 96 acres of vines, predominantly Rhone varietals. This used to be Cabernet Sauvignon, but now it's been grafted over to Viognier, which is one of our very nice white grapes. And we have, I think, approximately, 8 or 10 different varieties of between Cab Franc, Syrah, Petit Verdot. We have Cabernet Sauvignon, and we have a little bit of Zinfandel, and what else do we have? Roussanne in this vineyard. These vines are approximately 7 years old. They were planted in 1999, and this year the fruit is plentiful, as you can see, and we'll have to drop a lot of fruit to keep the yields lower. But we had very early bud breaks, so these are actually ahead of schedule. We expect an early harvest with these whites this year because they started a month early. So if the heat keeps up, we may be harvesting in early September on the whites and the reds. You just never know. When they're ready, they're ready.
Great wines are made in the vineyard, and that's where we start here, is that everything revolves around the vineyard and the vineyard operations and the style that we make the wine. So we're very, very concerned about how viticulturally we do things.
And we farm sustainably, which means that we don't really limit the use of any pesticides or herbicides. We have a machine that actually shaves off all the weeds on the berm, so we don't have to use Roundup, and it keeps the weeds down. And the soils here are just awful for anything other than grapes. No self-respecting plant would grow in this stuff except for grapevines. It's rocky, calcareous, chalky soils, and deficit irrigation, and these grapes are very, very happy where they are.